Hey, what's up, guys? Star here today. Today, I'm going to be talking to you guys about a Danganronpa. I actually made a little tier list, kind of categorizing the characters from the first three arcs of the first two games and then the third part anime, kind of the whole Hope's Peak Academy arc. And I just created a basic tier list to try to categorize it. Hopefully, I can start some meaningful discussion, get some input, see what you guys think. But here comes the video. So, just to jump into it, I'm going to give a little bit of background on my experience with Danganronpa as a whole, and then kind of get into this here tier list. I'm just kind of making a tier list based on the first three class trials that we see, the two in the first two games, and then the part three anime, which is kind of like the Hope's Peak, the end of that arc. And I haven't played V3 yet. I'm gonna start it up soon, but this is just of the characters that participate in the class trial. So there are some characters left out of it, like Makoto's sister and similar other characters that aren't here. It's just the main characters who are in the class trial. My actual tier list rankings are based on brawl rankings, because that's kind of what got me introduced to tier lists all long time ago. Was Smash Brothers and tier lists. It was a really like hot button topic 15 years ago. But so that's basically why I chose the tier list the way that I did. But just to give a little bit of background of my experience with Danganronpa, I just kind of didn't have much experience with it for a long time. I saw a bunch of the characters and some of the fans and stuff like that, and I just was like, I'm not sure I'm really into it. It just seems like cringy Phoenix Wright, so I didn't really give it much thought. And then I saw some of the games were on sale on Steam, and I saw a couple things on Reddit, people talking about it, and I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And I played through the first game, and I was like, all right, this is pretty good. I like the story, I like the mystery. I wasn't a big fan of some of the characters or the presentation so much, but I was like, I think this is a good starting point. I watched the anime. I thought the part one anime was pretty bad. But then as I started playing part two, I was like, okay, all right, I really am starting to like this. I really like a lot of the characters in this one. The mystery and the storytelling is still really good. I think it's quite good. So I was like, I was a lot more excited to play the second game. And then I did a little bit of research and found out V3 was like different characters, different story. So I just watched the part three anime and I loved it. I watched it like two or three times. I rewatched a couple of the final episodes just to make sure I got it all. And I was like, damn, this is good. And I really got into it. So before I moved on and kind of left these characters behind, I just kind of wanted to take one final look back and appreciate the characters that I liked and kind of make fun of the characters I didn't like. Because there's so many characters, I know my opinions are going to differ on a lot of these. So feel free to roast me. Feel free to tell me my opinion's trash and I don't know what I'm talking about. And that Makoto and that oh my god, I can't even remember his name. Komaida is actually the best character, and I'm wrong in every way possible. Go for it. Feel free. I wanna feel the hatred. I wanna feel your guys' opinions. So let me know what you think. But I'm gonna just kind of jump into it. I kind of roughly organized them between 1, 2, and 3. So that's kind of how I'm gonna do it. So for starters, I'm gonna start with Makoto. He's just the cheerful, happy boy who simps over a dead girl for like the entirety you see him. I think he was a little bit better in the part 3 anime. I'm not going to like separate him from part 1 game and part 3 anime. It's just going to be the same character because he's the same character. Overall, I don't hate Makoto. I just don't really like him. He's just kind of meh for me. Nothing too great, nothing too offensive. He's just kind of there. Hero. I kind of like his like kind of silly, shticky, like stoner hippie kind of thing. I think it's kind of interesting to see a character like that in like an anime style setting because you just don't really see it that often. Which I thought was kind of funny, but and the side that he's just kind of really stupid, where most people around him are really smart. I thought he was kind of interesting, but not a character I really liked. Asahina, she's okay. She's a happy high school athlete girl. There's nothing that I really dislike about her. They made like a dozen jokes about her having big jugs, and they just like kept making jokes about it. I wasn't really sold on the idea, and she didn't really do much for me. Her interactions with Sakura, I thought was pretty cool, but overall, I thought was kind of lackluster. She's okay. Togumi, I really ended up liking Togumi. He was probably my favorite character from the first game. Um, at first, you're kind of like, wow, he's just a fucking dickhead. And then, like, the longer he's on screen and the more he talks, you're kind of like, I think he just sees into the abyss. Like, he's just looking into the void, and he's just like, well, if I'm going to die, let's have fun. You know, he wanted to push himself and try to, like a less crazy way than Kamaida did, but he wanted to, like, everybody elevate their own abilities and, like, make something out of this crazy situation they found themselves in. So I thought Togumi was actually really interesting by the end of it. So he was probably my favorite character out of the first trial, by probably a lot, actually. I really liked him. He might even be Meta Knight tier, but I'm going to reserve that for when I get my opinions on some more characters. Celestia, I think I like Celestia about the same way that everybody else likes her. I think really like her design, like with the red eyes and like the gothic look and like the big like twin tails and stuff. I think she's just really cool looking, and then but her actual like character is just really meh. So she can just go mid. She didn't really do too much for me. I thought she looks cool, and I like seeing artwork of her, but she's just kind of there. Chihiro, I think, is another one. Like, well, there's the first character in part 1 I'm going to talk about like this, but I think they had a really good story going with Chihiro, of like Chihiro confronting their own like fears and desires and like how weak they felt, and that they need to like really persevere and like move forward. And then they're not there anymore, and I was like, I was just getting on board with this. Like, okay, all right, they're living, let's say, an alternative lifestyle, and then they're like, well, they're gone. Sorry. So I was just like, this was a good idea that I felt you could have ran with till closer to the end, so that way we could get more exposure to it. So just mostly on wasted potential, I'm gonna put them mid tier. I'd almost even maybe put them low tier just because them going away kind of annoyed me. Hifumi, he's an incel fanfic writer. They don't realistically give us much reason to have any faith in him or like him at all. He's not completely garbage, but like he's an incel who likes fanfic. They don't really give us much for him. Toka, I think was his name. I don't even remember. He's another one, kind of like Chihiro. I thought they were starting to do something really cool with them, like him like realizing like where he stands in his own like moral compass and like what it truly means to like be like if this was an actual school anime, he'd be the class rep character, and he took his duties as class rep really serious. So I think he could have gone somewhere, and like where he was at up until leading to his disappearance, I thought was very interesting. But they just, once again, I just don't think they really did much with him outside of that. So I think he's slightly more wasted potential than Chihiro even, so I'll put him low tier. Kyoko is maybe an unpopular opinion, but I thought she sucked. Her entire character development in the first game was, I'm gonna go investigate by myself. Bye. And then that's all you get from her for like 80% of the game. That's all you see from her, is she's just like, oh, I've got more important things to do. I'm gonna go now. Bye. And like that's just all you get. And then you get to the end and she's like, yeah, I'm like a super detective and my father's missing and he's the headmaster and I knew this stuff all along but I didn't tell nobody. But like I was being investigated by the mastermind, but like I didn't, even though I should have. But they knew, and they attacked Makoto, but they didn't attack her. And like, just her story just didn't seem really believable. It seemed like they wanted a character kind of like a Batman or an L style character where she just knows things and she's just really amazing and can come up with these crazy deductions and she's super smart. But like, I just had no connection to her. I just didn't like her. I didn't see her enough. And then, like, she's got some cool moments near the end of the game, but I was just like, I just don't care. I just don't care about you, like, at all. So, she's gonna go bottom tier. I just don't like her. Kuwata, Leon, he's a baseball guy, and he likes the Sex Pistols. He's literally going to go in trash tier because we see him for like 5 seconds and like we don't get anything from him, so he's basically non-existent. he's the murderer in the first trial. That's why you remember him. But there's nothing else inherently interesting about him. Mondo, I think Mondo's right up there in Shihiro and almost shares the exact same problem. As like, at first you're like, oh, he's just the delinquent Urameshi kind of trope character, and then you get this like kind of idea of where he comes from and the character that he is and the things that he's accomplished, and you're like, okay, I kind of like that. And then they're starting to get somewhere, and then he's gone, and you're like, so I think he's right up there with Chihiro, and like they're tied obviously because they disappear at the same time. But it's just like, I really liked what you were doing with it, and I liked that it was going to be like, he's kind of like, you know, Josuke from JoJo's Part 4, or he's kind of like Urameshi from Yu Yu Hakusho, and you know, he just looks like the standard delinquent style character, and that's basically all he was up until like his trial where he goes away, and then you're just like, you spun an interesting story as the dude's leaving, so why do I care? I'd care if we kept this story going and we moved somewhere else, but as it sits, we're not doing anything more with them, I don't. But he's okay. Toka, I didn't really like Toka. She's just that like quiet, neat, shut-in girl, and then they're like, lol, she's also a serial killer. I was just like, that's weird. I was like, in a cast of, you know, crazy, weirdo, colorful characters, I didn't feel we needed a hilariously exaggerated, crazy, colorful, weirdo character. So the whole Genocide Jack thing, while being kind of interesting, I just didn't really care for it. And I didn't really like Toka in the first place. Some of her interactions, like, I haven't played Ultra Despair Girls yet, but some of her interactions in Part 3 are kind of funny, and they're okay, but overall I think she's just kind of a meh character. Sakura is kind of like what they did with Chihiro and Mondo, where like she was just kind of there for a long time and we had no reason to really like or care about her, and then they're like, okay, there's this shit going on, and you're like, oh, that's actually pretty cool. And then like her interactions with Asahina, that's actually pretty cool. And like her actual like death actually kind of helped pave more of her own character. So I feel that was like a relatively good usage of like her going away, whereas like Chihiro and Mondo just felt like a waste. Like they had way more to do and way more stories to tell with them, and they're just like, oh, fuck off. But yeah, I actually like Sakura from the beginning. I thought she was kind of interesting, but they just didn't really do anything with her besides she's quiet and buff. And then they actually started developing stuff, and I thought it was really interesting. Sayaka, what's there to say about her? She's fun and bubbly, but that's probably just a gimmick she did to try to trick Makoto, and then she dies while she tried to kill somebody and frame Makoto, and then Makoto just simps over for the rest of the game. So you just don't really get anything from her. She's like Kawada, but you get a little bit more exposure to her. So she's just there. She's another character. She doesn't get anything. So yeah, she's bottom. She's slightly above Leon because she at least somewhat exists. And then we get to Mukuro. She's just like Kawada. Even in the Part 3 anime, like some of the best things she had was when she was interacting with Junko, and like Junko was trying to like stab her in the eyes, and she was like getting all excited because of the despair it would cause. But like especially in the first game, you get nothing from her. She's not even a character. She's just kind of like, I'm just this random pawn for Junko. She could have been unnamed henchman B in the game and the anime, and you wouldn't have really gained or lost anything. So she's just another character they just don't really give enough exposure or screen time to, and because of that, she just doesn't really feel that important. And then we get to Junko. She's either top tier or Meta Knight tier. I really liked Junko. I thought she was really fun in the first game. I kind of liked her weird interactions and like how she talked and like all the just like abject craziness. And then her interactions in the second game, I was like, this is actually like really genuinely funny and like super interesting. And I was like legitimately like laughing while I was playing it. And then like the despair arc in the Part 3 anime just made it even better. And I was like, she's genuinely like really funny. I like how she puts on this like really stupid, idiotic persona, even though she's like the most capable person ever, and people just constantly underestimate her because she just appears as this like stupid, you know, pink-haired, dumb, fashionista girl. And so they just constantly underestimate her. I just think it's really funny. And I just always like seeing her on screen. And, they featured her a lot, or like her little part where she shows up at the very end of the future arc in part 3, where she's talking to the teacher lady. I just thought that was really funny too. So I just really, really liked her. Togumi might be up there with her, but I'm going to leave my reservations for when I get through another couple characters. And that's kind of the preliminary rankings for part 1. So we're just going to move right into part 2. Hajime, I really, like, unlike Makoto, I actively disliked Hajime at the beginning of the game. He was just such a sourpuss. Everyone's like, yeah, cool, island stuff. And Hajime's like, no, this is bad. Bad stuff's happening. I don't want to do nothing. I don't want to hang out. I want to have friends. No, this is all bad. I don't want to do it. And he was just such a stick in the mud and just such a little dickhead for, like, a long time that I just didn't like it at all. And I actively disliked him, unlike Makoto, that I was just kind of meh on. But as the game progresses, he, like, legitimately becomes a little bit more likable. And then, like, the weird twist shit that happens at the end of 2, and then, like, his interactions with people in part 3 and stuff like that. I actually ended up liking him quite a bit, even before he becomes, like, an OP anime main character. I thought he was actually got pretty interesting, unlike Makoto, who's just, I'm the happy protag. Hope. And that's it. So I thought Hajime was actually pretty fun. Komaeda, I know apparently a lot of people really like Komaeda. I think he's okay. I kind of don't like his weird creepy shtick of, like, I'm gonna instill hope even if I have to instill great despair. Some of his moments where it shows, like, his really weird luck, I think is kind of funny and interesting. But overall, he's kind of a take it or leave it character for me. The weird chef guy, he's just trash. He's like Mineta from My Hero. He just sucks in all regards. He's just uninteresting. He's like a fake French chef guy who's, like, ridiculously pervy and just has no redeeming qualities. Like, he can just get straight out of there. No interest on him. Togumi. I actually really like Togumi. His part in the despair arc from the part 3 anime I thought was actually really interesting. And I think he's still one of the only characters, like, in all 3, 1, 2, and 3 that's, like, relatively unexplored. Of, like, we still, like, obviously he's the imposter, we don't know who he is, but I think, like, there's more facets to his personality and stuff like that we could have legitimately heard. I think he's a well-constructed character who's genuinely interesting, even though we don't know a whole lot about him. So I think his story is very intriguing and really interesting, and, like, how he helps out Miturai is very, like, just really cool. So I wish we could have gotten a little more about him, but he's pretty cool. I like Togumi. Chiaki, the hey girl. I like her enough, but after watching the Spare arc, I felt like the show was like, this is the character you need to care about. She's important. Please care about her. Please. You have to. Do it. And I just felt like the anime was kind of just, like, shoving her down our throats because, like, she was revealed to be a real person in the anime, but previously at the end of Danganronpa 2, they revealed that she's the only one who can't come back because she's just an AI. So they were like, see, she's actually a real person. And then they're like, come on, care about her. Oh no, she's dead. What a tragedy. And I just felt that was kind of artificial and just kind of fake, and I didn't hate her, but it was just like, she's an absent-minded gamer girl, and the whole class is like, we love you, you're class rep, and I'm like, okay, you're just doing that because she died in part 2, but she's okay. I don't hate her. I don't remember this guy's name, but he's the Yakuza kid. He's very much like Hajime in that he starts out as just a kind of a giant butthole, and you're supposed to just genuinely hate him, and then, after, I think it's the second trial, he's kind of like, okay, I can't really be a butthole because, well, we're probably all going to die here, and I don't want to do that. So he starts to mellow out, and he's, like, coming to terms with helping out the group and doing nice things, but, like, in his own kind of dickish Yakuza guy way, which I think is kind of fun and interesting, and the way he interacts with people is still kind of like, I'm a Yakuza guy, you have to listen to me, but I might not kill you. So I think he's pretty fun. I really liked him. He's another character that really grew as time goes on. Gundam Tanaka. He's just awesome. I'm still not sure if he legitimately has dark powers and he's an all powerful dark sorceress. You know, that's a reincarnation of a demon from hell, or if he's just a really delusional guy. But he's just fun. He's just so cool, and he just shouts his name, and he just calls on his hamsters and shit. He's just a lot of fun. I can't hate on Gundam Tanaka. It's just fun to say his name too, Gundam Tanaka. I really did like Gundam. Um, the little angry lolly girl, uh, she's like a step above the absolute garbage characters, but she's not really great either. She's just an angry little lolly girl, and then even in the despair arc, she's basically worthless, and she's just horrendously mean to people for no valid reason. They don't even like touch on why she's just such a like fucking bitch. She's just kind of mean to everybody, and they don't really give us much of a reason. She has the moments with the camera girl whose name I forgot, and Mahiru, I think, and then oh look, she's soft and sensitive and she can't tie her kimono. Oh jeez, but like, I don't care. She's just a bitch. Not interested. Ibuki Miyota. I really liked her. She's really high energy. She's really fun. She shouts totally random shit. She, like, when people think of Danganronpa, she's the type of character that people imagine. This, like, really animated, crazy, colorful, over-the-top kind of character. I think she's really fun and really cool. It's just she's another one that we just don't really get a whole lot of. They never even really try to give her much of an arc. She's just like, hopefully you like my design. But she gets a little bit more than somebody like Celestia does, who is also well known for her character design. But she's another one that they could have done more with, but I thought she was fine. Pink-haired guy, the mechanic dude, Miyota, I think. I don't remember his name. He also just sucks. He's just like an excitable guy who just simps over the princess girl, Sonia, and he just doesn't really do anything. He makes it to the very fucking end, and he still doesn't do anything. What's your defining character traits? I'm a mechanic that we don't really get to see do much mechanicking until like the very end, and then I also like the blonde girl a lot. That's it. He sucks. I really wish he wouldn't have made it to the end. There were such better characters. Like, they could have done something with Ibuki, or, I mean, so, meh. Camera girl, she's just another one. They just don't really do anything with her. They're like, she's a headstrong person, and she's really confident, but can get mad, and she's really caring towards the small kimono girl. Oh, and she's dead now. Sorry, bye. And we didn't get anything with her. Even when she was alive, she just didn't get much effort or, like, emphasis put on her. I just thought she was incredibly lackluster. And even in, like, the Despair arc, she's bickers with that girl from the reserve course, and then they're kind of involved in a murder case. She's there. She's not offensive, but she's just there. I'm blanking on her name. It's like Ayame. I think she's really good, actually. I really did like her. Her story of like rags to more rags is kind of funny, and like some of the stuff she says is just really interesting because the class is like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And she's just like, "What do you mean? That's how we live." Like when they're in the fun house and she wants to stay in like the shitty room or whatever, and everyone's like, "What the fuck? Why?" And she's like, "It's better than what I slept in." And they're like, "Oh my god, what is your life?" And, she just wants to eat, which is like typically like a shonen protagonist kind of trope, but like she encompasses it. And I just really like her energy and her style, and just I like a lot of things about her. And she's another one who makes it to the very end, and they did really fun and interesting things with her. I thought she was really interesting. Mikan, she's the sad blued nurse girl. She's another character. She's really fun. She was fun in the Despair arc. She was fun in part 2. Her murdering 2 people was like this big thing because you're like, there's no way she could have done it. It's like, but it's clear that she done it. I just thought she was really interesting. Like when I first started playing the game, I was like, that's the character. I want to like immediately max out my hope fragments or whatever. I want to spend time with her. I think she's funny, and she's just really interesting. I really liked her. And, her little, like, random falls and the lewd poses and stuff I thought was just kind of funny. Um, Coach Maru. I liked him a lot, even though he's Jotaro. He really is. Like, we've got Josuke and Jotaro. I thought he was really fun. I like his energy. The whole him turning into a weird robot is kind of weird. And, like, at the beginning of the Spare arc, he takes a shit so massive it, like, blows up half the school. And, like, it's just totally random. And they never quite explained why he's just so hardcore. Like, it could just, like, he's one of, like, strongest combatants ever and just, like, whips total ass. Like, he just is. He's just that hype, and, like, everybody just, like, respects him and loves him and stuff like that. I thought he was really, really fun and really interesting. Silver-haired, red-eyed girl with a sword. She's terrible. She's just awful. She gets literally no character development. She, gone after the second trial. Her entire character thing is, oh, I'm helping out the young Yakuza kid. And then she goes away. Like, even in the anime, she gets, like, 3 lines. She's good at using a sword, and that's it. She just sucks. Like, she's literally just a waste of space. They just didn't put any effort or thought into her, like, at all. So they could have taken her out, and it would have just made the game better. Pass. Sonya is, I'm going to say exactly the exact same. She doesn't realistically do anything. Maybe bottom tier, because some of her weird, like, cultural barrier jokes and statements are kind of interesting, but overall she's still just garbage. They don't do anything with her. She's just there. Like, just there. And she doesn't do anything. They could have taken her out and it wouldn't have really changed anything. She just has some okay moments. But overall, even in the Despair arc, I don't even think they put any emphasis or focus on her even a little bit. I can't even recall if she has much of any voice dialogue. She's just there. So yeah, she's non-existent. She can go. And that brings us to part 3. Let's save him. The Sweets girl. She's just annoying. She's just incredibly annoying, and she has no redeeming traits. Mitarai. He exists. They didn't really do a lot with him. He, like, fucked up real big and was kind of responsible for the tragedy. And then he just bitches about it. And he's just real sad. And he's like, I'm going to solve it in my own way by brainwashing the entire world. And I'm like, wasn't that the plot of, like, the fake Akatsuki from Naruto? Like, the infinite Tsukiyomi to, like, meet your goals? And I'm just like, I just felt his whole, like, I'm gonna mind control the world shtick kind of came out of nowhere. And then they're like, yay, we stopped the bad guys at the end of the Hope arc. And then they're like, JK, it's actually Mitarai. He's gonna mind control these people to kill more people to save the world with mind control. And I was just like, well, if we would have known about things that happened to Mitarai in the time that's passed, or directly seen his reactions to, like, the tragedy or things of this nature, this could have felt more realistic, but it doesn't. So it's just kind of there. He's okay. He exists. Pharmacy girl. She has a cool design, and then she's just like, you used me, I'm gonna go psycho mode. I'm just like, this is just like Toko. Almost exactly. Of like, oh, I'm a quiet, shut-in, neat girl, and then shit happens, and then, oh, boom, I'm crazy, and I'm gonna find you, I'm gonna kill you kind of shit. Like, you just don't really get a whole lot about her. They have that little, like, half episode between her and the candy girl, and they're like, oh, we used to be friends, and then you used me, you're a butthole. And then that's it. Meh. She's an okay design. She's another character that could just be deleted. He sucks too. The blacksmith guy. I've got swords. I like eating candy. And then he gets betrayed, and he's like, that's fine. I'm cool with it. You're a giant piece of shit, but I'm cool with it. And I'm just like, the fuck's wrong with you? Like, didn't like him. He could be removed entirely. The teacher, I thought the teacher was great. Miss Muzune, or I don't remember her name, but she was great. She was great. She was really fun and energetic and had this, like, weird starry-eyed dream, and wanted to just actually do good things. And so like when she becomes evil and kind of is responsible for all of Class 77, like becoming the remnants of despair, was like genuinely fucked up. And then when she's deceiving the rest of the people at the academy, and then kind of letting Jinko do her thing and like helping her out for literally years, like it's just really kind of sad and messed up, and like couldn't have happened to a nicer person. She just wanted to do good things. Like it was kind of depressing. I really liked her. She did good. The farmer guy, they got like a handful of lines of dialogue and then they died. They had a weird voice and people pointed it out. Garbage. Delete them. Great Gozu. I was just starting to like Great Gozu and then they killed him. I think it's funny. His like secret thing was he couldn't be pinned for a 3 count, which I was like, well, he's the ultimate wrestler, so that's not really gonna happen. But I see why that would kill him, because that's really funny. And then his statement to like Makoto, and he's like, hey, even if you think you're about to give up, you can't give up, because like there's people who are counting on you. So you may be the ultimate hope, but that doesn't mean that you can just sit here and bitch and whine and hopefully things get better. You have people that like genuinely need you. Like, shut up and like do the right thing. So I thought Gozu was really great, and then he wakes up, and then he's dead, and I'm like, well, fuck. I was watching with a friend of mine, and they were like, man, Gozu's starting to shape up to be my favorite character in this arc. And then, like, I was just like, I'm afraid I got some bad news. And then, they all go to sleep, and they wake up, and Gozu's dead. And I was like, yeah, I was feeling the same way. Like, man, I really like Gozu, and then he just dies. The boxer dude, garbage. If I should have made a tier for lower than garbage. For like absolute omega garbage. I just didn't like him from like the beginning, from even in the despair arc. I was just like, well, this guy's kind of a sour butthole. And then he lets Junko go because Junko's like, I know your gay secret. And he's like, well, fuck. Let potentially millions of people die and endanger the safety of the students. Like, that's fine. Who cares? But people knowing about my gay secret? Oh, no, can't do. Like, he beats the shit out of Hajime, and, like, he's kind of the reason that Hajime went and turned into the Ultimate Hope and, like, became super crazy powered Hajime. Like, he's kind of at fault for that. Like, and he's just kind of a butthole throughout the entirety of the Despair arc, and then we get to the Future arc, and he's the biggest butthole ever. And at the very end, they try to give him that redeeming part where he's like, oh, I'm going to go shut off the power and stop the monitors and, like, end the game. And I just want to see sword guy, whose name I can't remember, do well. And that's, like, his entire motivation. And I was like, okay, that's fine, but, like, you're not realistically doing anything. And then he doesn't do anything. So he does and shuts off the cameras and like stops the game or whatever, which that's fine, but it's just like, well, you've just been a giant like raging butthole this entire time, and I have no reason to actually give a crap about anything you're doing, and then you die without ever telling your buddy about your secret. Munakana. You die without ever telling Munakana about your gay secret, and there's this whole unresolved trauma, but you're just an angry butthole the entire time I've ever seen you on screen, and having this little bit of hope at the very end just doesn't help it. I hated every moment he was on screen. He was just annoying. The old guy, he's just an anime old guy. He shows up, he's awkwardly powerful for some reason. He's got totally weird words of hope, and then he dies, and then later on they're like, oh, he's the bad guy, and they're like, oh, he was controlled by the remnants of despair, and they're like, but he wasn't. He wanted to cause ultimate despair to create ultimate hope. Also brainwashing, which he knew Mitai would do if he put him in the game, but not put him in the game because Mitai wasn't supposed to be there. His whole plan seemed kind of stupid and convoluted. He's bottom tier at best. He's an anime old guy. And then he's kind of the bad guy, but he's also kind of not. Just, nah, pass. And then we've got the old drinking guy, Kizakura. I thought he was fun. In the Despair arc, he was okay. In the Future arc, I thought he was a little bit better, and then like he started like being genuinely awesome, and then once again he dies, and I was like, what is with the future arc, man? Just when characters are starting to hit their stride and be really cool, they just get killed off. So I felt a little betrayed on that one. But, he kept his promise to the old headmaster, So he did his whole thing. But I thought he was really fun and really interesting. And he was just kind of a slow burn character that had been there since the beginning of the Part 3 anime. And then he had just, the more and more on screen he was, the more and more I ended up liking him. And then he gets killed off unceremoniously. I thought it was kind of annoying. Miss Gecko Gahara, she's fun. I know it's not actually Gecko Gahara. She was dead before Part 3 ever started. It's, little fake green-haired Junko controlling her. But I think she's fine. I kind of hate the little stupid bunny, Monami. She's kind of annoying, but her interactions were interesting. Her turning into like a giant robot mech thing and fighting against them was, I thought, pretty funny. But overall, she's dead. Like, it's not even Miss Gecko Gahara, so we don't get any story or character for her at all. She's just a fake robot who does some cool things. So, meh. Pass. And then we've got Munakana. He, for me, was a lot like the boxer guy, Sakakura, of, like, he's just kind of a salty butthole throughout the whole entire thing. But, like, I felt that whereas, like, the boxer guy was, like, genuinely, like, dedicated to his beliefs, and that he just, like, I'll do whatever Munakana wants, and I'm just, like, this stupid, like, foaming at the mouth dog. Munakana was, like, truly devoted to his own zealotry and kind of misguided in his own beliefs, and then he eventually kind of realizes that, like, zealotry for his fake cause is kind of an issue, and he needs to worry about, like, instilling hope and not fighting despair. And, he has a little bit of it, and then, when the teacher lady dies, he's able to have this little bit of moment where he realizes that, like, hey, I've been fighting and struggling for this entire time, but, like, I'm not realistically accomplishing anything. I'm not realistically helping any of these people out. I'm just kind of making things worse. And, he was like, I'll eradicate despair, even if that means killing everybody on this planet. And I'm like, huh. Like, oh, this is the good guy, right? This is who we're rooting for. The guy who's, just a huge fan of mass genocide. And I was like, I don't know if I like this guy. And so, as the Part 3 anime kind of went on, I was like, I don't like this dude. He's kind of a douche. And then the further on it goes, especially near the end, he gets a little bit of redemption. And I felt his moment of redemption stuff was a little bit more warranted and a little better. He had a little bit better arc than, like, the boxer guy, who I just felt they were just like, oh, he's just a giant butthole. Oh, look, he did a nice thing. It's all better. Like, no. Munakana, I think, at least had, like, genuine moments of, like, okay, I want to do good things. So I think he's pretty good. If we take a quick look at the list, I didn't expect there to be as many characters in the trash tier. I knew that a couple of them for 3 were going to put in there just because, like, this guy, he dies. I don't even know who the fuck he is. Pass. And then those two, they just sucked. They just sucked really bad. They could have just been deleted. And that's unfortunately, like, a handful of the characters in Part 3. They just ended up not realistically mattering that much. Is there any changes or quick fixes that I would do? I could almost put Togami behind Junko in the Meta Knight tier. But I don't know if I like Togami as much as Junko. I do really like him, though. None of the Part 3 characters made it up above high tier, which doesn't really surprise me. We just didn't really... the 2 parts, 27 episodes, I believe. It's 25 or 27 episodes. In Part 3, we get a lot less, exposure to these characters, so it just makes sense. But overall, Part 1... and, above mid-tier, there is 5 characters. Part 2 has 3, 6, 8 characters. And then, Part 3 has 3 and Part 1 only has 4. So, that kind of very clearly illustrates what I was saying. Is like, I just felt the characters in Part 1 were a lot weaker. And they just didn't really do much with their stories. And they just didn't really tell much of anything with a lot of them. And even, like, their strong characters, they just didn't really do much with. So, I think this list is pretty accurate, actually. I think it's pretty spot on with how I felt going into V3. Like I said, I haven't played Ultra Despair Girls and I haven't started V3 yet, but I've done the first two games. I've watched both of the Part 1 and Part 3 anime, and this is kind of how I feel after it. I'll put Sakura back here. He's the worst character. Like, he just sucks. I mean, Part 1, Part 2 have the same number of trash tier characters. I mean, they have the Part 2 has one less bottom tier character, and then like actual low tier was actually no Part 2 characters. But I just think that's like kind of what I said at the beginning. Is I just think Part 2 took a little bit more time in exploring their characters and telling a much more coherent story with these characters like coming together instead of like this great mystery where there's a bunch of crazy stuff happening that's cool and interesting, and oh hey, there's happens to be a couple people here, which, like, as I showed, like, the strength of some of these characters is a lot weaker. But I think this is pretty spot on. I think it's pretty good. But I know my opinions will drastically differ from a lot of other people's opinions, so feel free to tell me I'm wrong, or feel free to tell me that my tier list is trash and Komaeda should have been top tier and Togami sucks and Gundam's the worst. I want to hear it. Like, let's get in deep.